Yeah.
Chapter 2 is just called Colares, and it delves into a story that I've looked at a lot. In Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, that was a book co-written by Jim Lukatsky, Colin Kelleher, and me. It goes into this particular dinner that was held at the beginning of OSAP, where all these really high-powered, big-brain people got together, including Lukatsky, Kelleher, Bigelow, and Lou, who was invited to it. And Lukatsky and Kelleher described in our Skinwalkers book what had happened at that event. Lou does sort of the similar thing, but from a different perspective. A guy walking in, not knowing about UFOs all that much, and gets exposed to information about Colares, which is an infamous outlier series of events, 1977 in Brazil, where UFOs came out of the sky and essentially attacked people. And the stories have been in newspapers around the world that people died, that there were serious injuries in this remote part of the Brazilian Amazon, an island in the middle of the Amazon Delta, where people scattered. They were freaked out. They left their homes. And then actually this spread beyond just Colares into other communities in that area. A lot of people were affected by it. The Brazilian Air Force comes in, investigates it for several months, keeps all those files secret for many, many years. And then when OSAP was created, the Brazilian Air Force government gave that stuff to OSAP, to BASS, the Bigelow team, Lukatsky and Kelleher, et cetera. And they started talking about it at this dinner. There was the Brazilian Air Force commander, Ochoa, who was there and regaled everyone with stories about what had happened. Lou puts it in his book. Well, that story is of interest to me. I was in Brazil not too long ago for something I'll tell you about down the road, and looked at Colares, and one of the people who helped me understand what had happened to Colares back then, and what is still unfolding now in Brazil, an incredible history of strange UFO events on a mass scale. This guy, Thiago Ticchetti, he's sort of the foremost UFO investigator and author in Brazil these days, after the passing of our friend A.J. Gavard. He's written a massive book called UFO Contacts in Brazil. It's like an encyclopedia of hundreds and hundreds of really well-documented cases. I got to spend some time with him. I also interviewed him on Coast to Coast not long ago. And I thought, Jeremy, that he'd be a great guest for us here on Weaponized.
I'm pumped to meet your buddy, Thiago. And yeah, talk about Colares, because before we get into it, Brazil has been really unique in the whole thing, because this is the one case from Jacques Vallée all the way through OSAP. You've told me so much about this. It's the one kind of head scratcher where these UFOs were harming people. People died because of direct attacks, it seems like, from UFOs. So they're getting wild in Brazil. What's going on? So I'm excited to talk to your friend.
Well, it is an outlier incident because, all the incidents around the world, people see a UFO in the sky and it goes away, or it zips into the water, or it just vanishes. It flies into a butte. Not really any really strong incidents where they attack humans. But in this case, they did. It is an outlier. It is unusual. And hundreds of people were affected by it. And the witnesses would say it looked like they were shooting laser beams at them. There's new information and further information in the files that suggests something else. I think we should wait and talk to Thiago about what the evidence showed, the physical evidence showed.
All right, let's bring him in. Thiago, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, George. Hi, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thiago, I don't know if you've read Lou Elizondo's book, but as you know, right off the bat, early in the book, he starts talking about Colares. That was probably kind of a thrill for you in that, it redirects attention to some of the historical cases that you've investigated.
Yeah, it's. I start to read the book. I've not finished it yet. I received it 2 days ago, so I start to read it. And the first chapter I read was about Colares, of course.
Yeah.
I jumped for the second chapter. And, what Luz Elizondo wrote in that book was real. But even more, I can see even more dramatic because, we were there. We heard people from the Colares and Barcarena, what they experienced it when they were attacked by UFOs, UAPs, aerial machines because they saw the shapes in many times. And these attacks occurred during the night, the day, the dawn, anytime. So the people got very scared about it.
Yeah, hundreds of them left Colares. They left their homes, right? Just took off.
1,000 left cities, several cities in Brazil. We met Carlos Mendes, a journalist in Brazil, in Colares, and he told us that, I can count more than 2,000 people were attacked by this UFO, the Chupa-Chupa phenomenon, the suck-suck phenomenon in Brazil.
You know, it's in the history of UFOs around the world. It is obviously an outlier. There just aren't any other incidents quite like that. What was going on there? The stories that we've always heard is they looked like it was laser beams. They were shooting lasers out of the sky and trying to hurt people. What do you think was really underway now that you had a chance to be on the ground there and talk to some of the people who survived it?
No, it's still a mystery because the UFOs, the UAPs, were attacking people. And they have to run, and some had to hide in church, in house. But even if you are sleeping at your house, the UFO just hovered above it and shut down a laser beam and hit you through the ceiling. So it's crazy. And what people were saying that doesn't matter what you do. They were there. They try to get away the UFOs using fireworks or guns, but it doesn't work. So we don't know what happened there. It's still a mystery. And the Air Force team were there to investigate, and they tried to give an answer for that because they were there to investigate, but they couldn't. They found more witnesses. They could take photos. They could record films, and they left the cities with the one conclusion: something was happened there. They cannot explain it.
All right, loaded question, Thiago. So all this UFO footage from, it sounds like the Brazilian military, 1977, huge, UFO invasion, man. Like, what does this footage show, and where did it go after they filmed it all?
Well, the footage shows UAPs coming out of rivers, of lagoons, UAPs coming from the wood, from the forest, or passing by, or just hovering, or shooting beam of lights to the ground, searching for something, perhaps. But we don't know where are the footage. We don't know. We think we have some we heard some rumors that this footage, 22 hours, are now in United States. we have a rumors suspicious that the American agents, probably some with the three letters, came to Brazil and confiscate or got or borrow the many documents, photos, and those films.
So 22 hours of footage recorded by the Brazilian military of the UAP coming in and out of lagoons, in from the forest. I mean, probably some of the best footage we could possibly imagine. And you're certain that it exists to a high degree?
Yes, we know that it exists because Captain Wida Geolanda was the leader of the team. He told to AJ Javerde and Marco Antonipici, he told them that we recorded more than 22 hours of film. So
of course they did, yeah.
Where the film now? The footage, we don't know.
Well, first time I met Thiago in person, Jeremy, he told me what his suspicion was, is that it came here to Las Vegas, that it went to BAS, OSAP, the DIA program. And I could just confirm this, that I have seen files from the Brazilian Air Force that did go to BAS. I have not seen the video. So if OSAP had it, they didn't let me see it. And I'd like to see it because I've heard it and read about it described, these things coming out of the water and just sitting there being recorded on film cameras by the Brazilian Air Force. That'd be some really great footage to have. If it's here, I'll poke around and see what we can find, but, I'm not holding my breath. How long did the Brazilian Air Force sit on this stuff, Thiago, until they decided to release it? And can you talk to Jeremy and I about the difference between your government and how our government handles this issue?
Well, they did not decide it. They were forced to. From 1977 to, let's say, William G. Holanda, the Captain Ray Holanda, spoke about that for the first time in 1997. In 1997, so 20 years after the events. But Bob Pratt was here before that, and he got some documents and information, but it was just a glimpse, just a glimpse. And when William G. Holanda spoke with AJ and Marco Antonio Petit, he always showed a lot of documents. And in 2005, we created a campaign here in Brazil called UFO Freedom of Information Now. And from 2005 for now to now 2024, we now have more than 10,000 documents released in the Brazilian National Archive, on internet and everywhere. You can see it. So the Brazilian government, the military government, sat down on it for 20 years, at least 20 years. They were trying to avoid to discuss about this because that mission, the Air Force mission, was secret. Of course, everybody saw them there, but the press saw them. But they were there just to investigate some lights, something in the sky, and they concluded that was nothing uncommon there, nothing weird there. So, well, if that was not word, I don't know what word is.
One other question about Colares, the attacks. So this picture that's been painted in international media for all these years is these were attacks out of the blue by UFOs on the poor people of Colares, and it was unprovoked, and we can't explain it. Do you think that there's a different perception that's probably more accurate, that these laser beams maybe weren't laser beams, that it was something else? It was some kind of a sampling operation rather than an attack?
Yes, because the people that have been attacked by this laser beam, they went to the doctor, they got sick, nausea, something like that, tired. And they went to the Village was the only woman doctor there, Dr. Village. And she made some exams of the people. And she discovered that they lost blood. And not only blood, they lost iron from the blood. So that thing was sucking blood. That's why we call them Chupa-Chupa, suck. But also they are sucking iron. The people got anemia. So for what purpose? We don't know. And while we are there, I was talking with people in the street, and I found an old guy, a gentleman, and Mr. Francisco, I think it's Francisco, and I asked him. He was 80 years old, something like that, and I asked him, "Do you know what happened here in 97.7, the Chupa-Chupa phenomenon?" Yes, I saw it, and 2-3 meters from me, a lady was hit by a beam of light, a laser, and they think got her neck, and when left the neck, the blood was leaking, and that thing it's like a rope, something like that, was going back to the UAP, but the blood was leaking. So it was material. It's not imagination, it was material. And he saw that. And we know that officially just one people died. But we are we think that much more people died because this attack happened in the inner of Brazil, where the cities are very far from each other. We have to take a boat. You have to take a road, 3-4 hours road, a boat 2-3 hours in a river that looks like an ocean. And this attack happened in the smallest cities of north and northeast of Brazil. So we think that more people died because of that attacks.
So is it a pretty rural area in Colares where, so you've got people that are not engaging with like, a whole bunch of technology all the time in 1977, and you have UAP in the sky coming out of water, coming through the forest and shooting not only light, but it sounds like there's a physical attachment, and you call them Chupa-Chupa, which means suck, because they're pulling blood out of people. And this old man saw the blood dripping down.
Yes, that's it. And
people left because they didn't want to live there anymore with all this shit going on.
Yes, they were scared because they have no 6 o'clock. They shut down the windows, the doors. No one was in the street. But even if you were at your house, inside of your house, if the UAP, the UFO wanted, just shoot at the laser beam through the ceiling and hit you. We have cases, several cases that happened there like this. So there's no way to avoid it. People, women and children many times run to the church to pray while the men were on the beach, try to avoid the attacks, but they couldn't do nothing. The UAP just appeared off the beach and shoot down a laser beam, a light, and it looks like searching something, and go inside the woods, the forest, and then come back and dive in the river. What was that? We don't know what was that.
So people were like self-quarantining. They were closing up their houses at 6 p.m. Like the whole town, they wouldn't go out at night because it's just happening more at night. Is that the thing?
Happen at night, during the day, daylight, during the day. There's no time, any time of the day, or at night that should be have more cases, but their attacks happen anytime.
So they'd have these beams, what looked like beams of light, hit these people, and a lot of them, hundreds of them, went to seek medical care. They had puncture wounds, what looked like puncture wounds, and they were anemic. So something jams into their chest and their bodies, takes blood out. It sounds like a sampling operation. There's nothing else like it. It makes you wonder, Thiago, I mean, who were these visitors? They don't act like UFOs have acted around the world. Maybe it was just some rogue group or a rogue program, wherever they're from. What do you think?
Yes, they're here. I don't know, DNA tests, blood tests, something like that. We don't have an answer for that. And if it was just one case, 2 cases, okay, it's like overreacting, something like that. But more than 2,000 people, according to Carlos Mendes, were attacked by these UFOs in many cities of the state of Pará and Maranhão.
There must be a lot of medical records.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Are there medical records?
The medical records. Well, yes, we had it, but they vanished.
What do you mean they vanished?
Disappear from Brazil hospitals. Just disappear.
Well, so you'd imagine that there's a lot of people. It's kind of like in the Virginia case with the alien being or whatever is claimed. You have to imagine there's photos when people get injured and then they go to the hospital. Someone's going to take a photo of the holes in the neck. Have you seen any of those? Or
there are famous photos with people that got hit in the neck or in the leg or on the arm, under the arm. But the records, the medical records, and more pictures, I suppose, just disappear from the hospital. Carlos Mendes is a journalist in Pará State, and he investigates much more cases than the Air Force team because he was working there. He took a lot of pictures as well, published in a newspaper. And Carlos told us that one day appeared a man from Peru, a guy from Peru. Oh, I live in Peru, but I want to know how the newspaper here in Brazil works. And Carlos told us that this guy was actually an agent from the United States, trying to get all the documents in the newspaper, the photos and everything. And Carlos told us, well, Thiago, the reports, the medical reports from 98% of the victims just disappear. We don't have the records. If you want to go to Colares and try to find the record, you could not find it. They were stolen or disappeared, something like that.
Give me a sense of, the Brazilian Air Force investigated it. Eventually, those records end up in the U.S. in this DIA program. What is the level of cooperation between your government, your military, and ours? Because I know there is suspicion. Brazilians are suspicious of North Americans for very good reasons. But would the Brazilian military take their cue from the U.S., from the CIA, say, and hide records, videos, things of that sort, if the CIA decided they wanted that to happen?
Well, George, I don't know if they have some cooperation, something like that. I think so. I think so, because the United States is the biggest country in the world, like me, economy and military. And we are talking about 1977. We still have the Soviet Union, the capitalism and socialism. We have this dispute, this battle. What is good? What's evil? What's not evil? Something like that. And the United States has had this influence, and Brazil always had this influence. And we are living in military times here in Brazil. We have generals in a president. So I think that for some reason we don't know why, the military of the United States are involved with that. Or not only military, just the agents, the intelligence of the United States who are involved with this case in Colares.
George.
Yes.
I want to just ask you, so the Colares, set of events in the history of UFOs and everything that's going on, it's highly documented by a government. We know the U.S. was working in some way with the Brazilian government. I mean, even people sat in on some of those meetings, from OSAP with one of the generals in Colares. So what is your suspicion? What is your suspicion about Colares, the role it plays in kind of the whole UFO thing, and how much do we know? How much did the U.S. get from these really odd cases?
Well, my sense in talking to Thiago for quite a while now is that the Brazilian Air Force got a lot more information and solid evidence than has been made public. How much of that ended up here, I suspect the bulk of it did, but it's a really great case, profound in so many ways, because it's such an outlier in the history of the world. There's nothing quite like it. Over so many people involved, over such a big area, so well documented, and so aggressive on the part of the UFOs, wherever they're from, there's nothing quite like it. And thank goodness there aren't more like it, because it was terrifying for the people there. I hope that someday, whatever the evidence is that's stashed away will come out. But the evidence that's already been made public is very convincing. I mean, Thiago mentioned about these photos. They were printed in newspapers at the time. He's friends with the journalist at the time who was right on top of that investigation and who ran these stories and got grief for it. He had people come to his boss and try to make it stop. It's a fascinating case. But look, the history of Brazil, man, you have so many big cases there, Thiago. I would think, because it's such a gigantic country, Amazon, there are so many scattered communities where things could happen that you never hear about because people are not necessarily connected. There must be all kinds of stuff that goes on that could keep you busy for the rest of your life.
Yeah, we have all types of cases here, UFO cases here in Brazil. We have the Virginia incident, like the Roswell. The Brazilian Roswell is Virginia. We have the Night of the UFOs, 1986.
Tell Jeremy about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, in 1986, on May of 1986, the Brazil was invaded by UFOs. We had more than 22 UFOs chasing and being chased by Brazilian military aircrafts. So controls center, military tower controls in Brazil, they saw it. They saw it and they recorded on the radar screen. Pilots from civil air companies, they saw UFOs. And military 5 jets, 3 F-5 and 2 Mirages. They scrambled to chase, identify, and try to understand what is going on. So in 3 different states, São Paulo, Brasília, and Rio de Janeiro, the UFOs were in the Brazil skies. And the UFO were like 1 meter diameter, 10 meter diameter, 100 meter size. So the Brazil was invaded, and this took for around 6-8 hours from 9 o'clock from on May 9th to 6 in the morning on 20.
And this is 1986, right?
Yes, 1986.
So yeah, I have to imagine, and I know a little bit because you shared some with us, but the UFO phenomenon in Brazil, it sounds like that there's been some dramatic events. You're talking about real physical things that happen to people, but then also USOs in 1986. But you just shared with us that recently, August 7th of 2024, so this month, that 35 records, all of which occurred in 2023, so last year, that there was 35 records of pilots, both military and commercial, reporting UFOs, UAPs in different forms. And something you wrote us, and that's really great that the government, released these, the public can go through them, they can translate them now on Google immediately into whatever language that they speak. But something I read in what you wrote us was that the description given by the Brazilian Air Force to the UFOs encountered by pilots during these flights was traffic hotel. Can you help me understand that from a language barrier? What does that mean when the government's saying, traffic hotel for UFO? What does that mean?
Because we don't, the pilots don't want to say OVNIs, like UFOs. The word traffic hotel they created this words back in the 60s when some pilots saw it, and they didn't want to talk UFO. And the first pilot, don't know certainly what the name, but I saw some traffic hotel. What do you mean hotel? Or traffic hotel. You go to a hotel, stay one night and leave. Just like this. Very fast. Come and leave. So that's why they start to call traffic hotel. And these 35 cases that happened in 2023, it's not, I'm pretty sure that's not the total of the cases. We have much more. But this 35 were reports reported by pilots to the Brazilian Air Force. And Brazilian Air Force have a directory, 511, that, everything that pilots saw and reports to Brazilian Air Force, the Brazilian Air Force have to put in a database and then send to National Archive here in Brazil. So every year, we have some reports made by pilots to the Brazilian Air Force. And they have, it's a law, they have to publish. They have to send to National Archives. And that's why as a ufologist, every day I go to National Archive to see if we have a new report.
Oh, and man, you got to physically go down there? Yes. Oh, rather than... So this is... Okay, so this is wild. Let me just back up to make sure I understand. I can be a little dense sometimes. So what you're saying is back in the day, people didn't want to say UFO if they're a military or commercial pilot. So instead of saying UFO, they came up with the term traffic hotel, as if things come stay for a little while and then depart, never to be seen again. And this is like a terminology that people use over the air and that sort of thing. So they don't have to feel like a kook saying UFO, UFO. They say in Brazil, traffic hotel. Is that correct?
That's it. That's it. Perfect.
Okay. So then the other thing that really struck me from what you're telling me about these, and I've read through them, by the way, but the 35 different reports, it's probably the tip of the iceberg. But I noticed report 860, you're talking about a cube-shaped UFO 9 meters long. Report 868, you're talking about cigar-shaped UFO 2 to 3 meters long, making jumps. You're talking about case 875. Star-shaped object, white in color, which at times turned reddish in color. And then case 871, several white luminous objects with no defined shape, flying and making jumps. So what really struck me about those 4 cases, man, we're seeing the same cases with our military systems. You're seeing star-shaped, cigar-shaped, like the Tic Tac. You're seeing these cubes with spherical auras. It also reminds me back in the day when you get the Mount Rainier sightings, and that's the some of the original UFO sightings. Why we call them flying saucers is because of the way they moved. They skipped like a saucer on water. That wasn't the shape of the craft. They were more like bat-winged back in the day. But what we're seeing in Brazil as of last year is this variety pack of UFOs, from cigars to star-shaped to cubes to spheres, and the skipping motion. I mean, in your opinion, in Brazil, has there been an increase of frequency or just an increase of documentation of people with cameras and stuff?
Jeremy, both. I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because now the pilots, they feel free to talk more about it. Okay, now here in Brazil, the ufology is taken more seriously by the media, so they have more comfortable to speak, not to speak, report, okay, report. And here in Brazil as well, we have experienced a lot of sightings. I got more than 10 emails a day with people reporting something. Of course, that we can explain the most part of it, 90%.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 you can explain. You're lucky you only get 10 emails a day. I mean, look, we ask for it. We want, but you're taking reports for all of Brazil. And we're taking reports too. Georgia, it's like a slot machine at midnight. Just boom, 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 boom. It's so good there's someone like you in Brazil, just open-minded, taking the reports, because that data, you can run it through AI later, right? You'll be able to understand that data a lot more in the future, but just collecting it, the fact that people can reach out to you, especially in Brazil. How do people reach out to you? Do you have an email that people can report Brazilian UFO cases, or?
Yeah. People can find me people can find me at my social medias. Just have my name, Thiago Ticchetti. You can find me. And my email is TL Ticchetti, TLTICCHETTI #yahoo.com.br.
We'll post it.
We're gonna make sure that people can reach out to you, because sometimes there's a language barrier. A lot of times I'm doing translation just in emails to really understand what people are sending me. But I think I highly encourage people, especially if they speak Portuguese and they're in Brazil, to make sure to be thorough and go to you, Thiago, so that we can communicate and try to put these cases together. But wow, what a fun place to investigate UFOs, is in the heart of some of the wildest cases of physical problems people have had, as well as USOs.
You have to come here, Jeremy. You have to come here, because we have...
I've been many times to train jiu-jitsu and capoeira and that kind of thing, but I've never been for UFOs.
This is the book. I want to plug it again. UFO Contacts in Brazil. It is like an encyclopedia. In addition to the Night of UFOs and the Operation Plato, which is Operation Plate Saucer, Varginha.
Virginia as well, Ubatuba, many.
This is
yes.
a UFO and metal raining down on a beach, and the metal samples have been analyzed. Very interesting. The guy who was abducted for sexual reasons, the first really big abduction case happened in Brazil.
Yeah, the Vila Boas case, the Vila Boas in 1957, almost 10 years before the Barney Bat Hill.
Thiago, so I spent a few months specifically in Fortaleza, Brazil, during my jiu-jitsu days, and it sounds beautiful. I hear it's a great beach town. All I saw was fists and feet in a little garage in a favela where I was training for 3 months, sleeping in a hammock. I didn't get to see any of the beautiful stuff. So I'd love to travel to Brazil for UFOs and get to look at the night sky and try to see some of the beauty. I was there for the martial arts at the time, but well, yeah, that's great, man.
You both are invited to come to Brazil and stay at my house. Well, in Brasilia, we don't have a beach in Brasilia. We are in the middle of Brazil. But we say that the beach, the sea of Brasilia is the sky. It's so blue.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I saw a weaponized sticker at the Sao Paulo airport. I don't know how it got there, but I saw it while I was there last time. I will have to show. I've got a photo of it. I'll show it. Thiago, so you have a website where you post all these photos and reports that people could read? I'm asking in this context, is today I read that Twitter, X, is being banned in Brazil, that it's being shut down. So I want to make sure people can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Instagram, Thiago Ticchetti, just put together. We can find me at Revista UFO magazine.
UFO magazine?
UFO.com.br. I'm the editor of the magazine after AJ. And you can find me in Facebook, in TikTok. Just type Thiago Ticchetti. You can find me. You can find all information, good information about ufology in Brazil. Always updated.
Yeah, for everybody, we're going to put all your links in because I'm a horrible speller and you get something wrong. So I'll make sure to put all the links in.
I had one other question before we let you go, Thiago. Your father was in the Air Force. Did you ever set him down and say, Dad, what's the deal? Give me the lowdown.
Oh, many times. And the last time I did it, I got it.
Your own dad was holding out till he got older to tell you his understanding of the UFO phenomenon?
Yeah, my father was a military. He's a colonel in Brazilian Air Force. And he loved it, be a military.
So what did he say? What's up with UFOs? What did he say?
He loved the subject. Since I was a kid, I knew that he loved it. And at the end of his career, my father just passed away 20 years ago. And in the end of his life, he was working at the Brazilian Air Force intelligence, the A2 is intelligence of the Brazilian Air Force. And he was divorced of my mother, and every weekend we go to his work and then to his house. And I always ask Dad, what do you have here about UFOs? I have nothing. One day I asked it again, just a routine. I asked it again. And I picked the phone and called somebody. Bring the 2 boxes of a UFO archive that we have here. Whoa. And the soldier came with 2 brown boxes, the paper boxes. And I started to read it, and my father told me, you have 10 minutes to see and read everything you want. And so I started to see the file just as a dialogue between pilots and control and towers. And I got one file that had a picture. Jeremy and George was a perfect picture of a UFO. Perfect. If I show you today, you're going to say, wow, Chuck, is a artificial intelligence or Photoshop. Was it perfect? It's just like the pilot was in a commercial airplane because you can see the cockpit. And the pilot just turned to the left and took the picture. I don't know the year, but when I saw it, it was 1992, when my father showed me that. And the pilot just turned to the left and took the photo. And the UFO was 300, 400 meters from the airplane. It was daylight. And the UFO was disc-shaped UFO. Silver, shining the sunlight. And I got crazy with that photo. And I said, Dad, can I have it? No, and you have 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Dad, can I make a copy? Because a black and white copy, we don't have phones in 1992. Cell phones with camera. And he said, no, you have 7 minutes and 25 seconds.
Wow.
So what I did, I was 92, I was 15 years old. Yeah. And I start to write down the smallest reports because I wanted quantity, not quality. So I was young, sorry. And I got 17 pages, 17 reports. I wrote it, and some have drawings. I copied the drawings, and when I got home, I put in I type it on an old machine, type Olivetti machine, and I type it. I have these files today with me, but that's photos.
And they're perfect verbatim. But hold on, you were about to say that photo. Tell me more.
Well, that photo, I never saw it. I never will release it. I never saw the photo published.
Never been public.
And never been public. And the files that I wrote down, I never saw these files. Always be public.
I think George and I can relate, not to being 15 and being exposed to this, but being exposed to imagery, video, or information. And you're like, if people could just see this, it's so frustrating. You're talking about seeing a crystal clear image of a UFO that in that era, in that age, not generated by AI or anything like that if people could just see. So imagine that's just your dad who's in the intelligence agencies in Brazil, finally relenting to his 50-year-old son. You have 10 minutes or whatever with the boxes. Can you imagine the high fidelity imagery and video that we do have and that we're not able to see? It's a crime, man. It's a shame.
Yeah, Jeremy, I saw 1,000 of photos of UFOs. Everything you and George released, I saw it. That is not 1% like what I saw. It's not 1% clear.
That's so cool. At least you have that experience.
Yeah, I did. It's in my brain.
Thiago, thanks so much for sharing time with us. We wanted our listeners, our audience, to get to know you. We're hoping that some UFO organizations here in the U.S. will notice that you're such a diligent worker. You have great contacts. You're honest. You work hard at this. They need to invite you up here so the American audience can see you in person.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. I love ufology. I love to research. Yeah. My wife asked me.
Yeah, and look, man, grab those 17 accounts and send it to us or put it out online. We'll direct people to it. But I think those are very valuable because those are pure, clean accounts that you transcribe that the world hasn't seen. I think that's really important, really valuable. And I do hope if you're doing any of these UFO talks or anything, I'll come see your talk with George. Be excited to see that. Thank you so much for spending the time. I think we're going to have you on again so we can go deeper into the cases.
It's going to be a pleasure for me. Thank you very much for the invitation, Jeremy and George.
See you, Thiago. Bye.
Yeah, man. Wow. That was cool to talk with Thiago. You told me a lot about him, his personal experience of his dad being an intelligence agent in Brazil and letting him have access to these UFO files that the world still hasn't seen. It drives me crazy, man. It drives me crazy, but I'm glad that he had that experience. I guess I want to hear your opinion, George. So the international impact of the idea of what we've done here in the U.S. with the hearings and the New York Times report and all of your reporting and the releases, it sounds like Brazil, and I'm sure in other countries, that people are being a little bit more free, pilots and whatnot, reporting this stuff. Do you think it's had a global impact, what the U.S. has done in the last 5 years?
I'm sure it has. The whole world pays attention to us via social media, via regular mainstream media as well. Things that make news here make news all over the world. And I think the thaw, there's been sort of a thaw, some of the stigma that's decreased. I think that's probably spread out to other countries as well. You know, the South American governments in general have been way more open with their public and releasing records than has the U.S. You know, our government has had to been drag kicking and screaming, and now they're pushing back, and you can see they've tightened the screws. It's a lot harder to get information and for them to be honest with us. But, you know, there's a lot of public impetus behind the push for transparency. I've said before what I think is going to happen. I'm not holding my breath for disclosure. I don't think it will ever happen. And I think they've shown that Arrow report that dismissed everything. Everything's been explained. TikTok, Gimbal, everything shows that they are not going to give up on this fight. They are going to have to be dragged, kicking and screaming toward anything even approaching disclosure, my feeling. But yeah, it's good to see in Brazil and other countries, the general public being more interested in the topic and the thaw in relations in terms of the stigma and how it's perceived.
All right. So next question, I got two more. So confirm, deny, or disagree. Was the purpose of OSAP at the beginning, the Acknowledged UFO program that everybody should know about now, was the purpose of that program, a lot of it, to literally transfer a UFO from Lockheed Martin into the OSAP program to be able to bring it through the front door and have more bright minds working on the UFO that James Lakatsky admitted to, Dr. James Lakatsky admitted to? Was that one of the primary purposes that OSAP was created for, is to obtain this material or this craft? Confirm, deny, or disagree?
I think it was definitely a big part of what OSAP hoped to happen. That has been told to me, you know, by multiple people who were involved in it. They really did hope to get the goodies. I mean, it's confirmed by Robert Bigelow when he first talked about the program. He spent $1 million to retrofit Bigelow Aerospace in order to get it ready to accept certain materials. We know the kind of materials we're talking about. And they were told them some things about it. That transfer never happened for a variety of reasons. But yeah, that was a really big part of why OSAP was created. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Lockheed Martin has a craft from a crash from the 50s, and they were going to try to give it to OSAP. That's what
I'm not saying it's definitely Lockheed Martin, but that's a pretty good guess.
Okay, so I'll make a few guesses, but that's a good one. All right, last thing. You know, do you think, or can you try to find out? I know you've been exposed to a huge amount of the OSAP UFO files. Do you think that OSAP has access to the 22 hours of footage shot by the Brazilian military of the incidents at Colares? Do you think OSAP has access to that 22 hours or can find out where it is?
Well, OSAP doesn't exist anymore. So if they had it, it's sitting in the bowels of the DIA somewhere. Someone, I think people that we know, if it's there, they could access it. I would hope they could. But I don't know. I mean, you know, we know those guys pretty well. I've asked about this before. I have not had anybody even come close to confirming they've got the kinds of images that Thiago just described to us. I've been through those files. You know, I've seen most of that stuff about Colares and from the Brazilian Air Force, and I haven't seen any of that stuff. I'd love to see it. If it's out there, I'd love to see it. But, you know, maybe we could poke around. We'll poke around and see what we find.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for the update on UFO Mania on X. And it was great to have your friend Thiago from Brazil here. And I hope everybody enjoyed the Weaponized, and we'll be back soon.